Chapter 9. Fear, Vanity, Revenge and Silly Jokes. March turned into April and April turned into May. After Fireone's remark about the pathetic bunny rabbit, Toothless never pooed in the kitchen again, but Hiccup hadn't made any further progress in training him. It was still raining, but it was warm rain. The wind was blowing, but it was less furious wind. It's just about possible to stand upright. The gulls' eggs were hatching on the rocks, and the parent gulls dive-bombed Hiccup and Fishlegs when they came to Long Beach to practice. "Kill Horror-Cow, kill," said Fishlegs to Horror-Cow, who was calmly perched on his shoulder. "You could have that black-backed gull for breakfast. He's barely half your size. Honestly, Hiccup, I give up. I don't know how I'm going to pass the hunting section of the test. Horror-Cow just doesn't have the killer instinct. She'd never survive the wild." Hiccup laughed hollowly. "You think you've got problems? Toothless and I are failing right from the beginning. The basic obedience commands, the retrieval, the compulsory exercises, the hunting, the lot." "It can't be that bad," said Fishlegs. "Watch," said Hiccup. The boys moved along to the beach of a bit out of the range of the gulls. They started practicing the most basic command of all, go. The dragon was supposed to stand bolt upright on the handler's outstretched arm. The handler would then bark the command loudly as possible while simultaneously lifting the arm to fling the dragon into the air. The dragon was supposed to soar gracefully into flight when the handler's arm reached the highest point. Horror-Cow yawned, scratched and slowly flapped off, grumbling to herself. Toothless was even less obedient. "Go!" yelled Hiccup. Hiccup flung his arm. Toothless hung on. "I said go!" Hiccup repeated in frustration. "Why go?" shuddered Toothless, gripping on even tighter. "Just go!" screamed Hiccup, flapping his arm and down frantically, with Toothless hanging on for dear life. Toothless stayed. "Toothless," said Hiccup, as reasonably as he could, "please go. If you don't start going, well, I tell you, we're both going to be thrown into exile." "But I don't want to go," Toothless pointed out, equally reasonably. Fishlegs watched the whole process in appalled amazement. "You really do have problems," he said in an awed voice. "Yup," said Hiccup. He finally managed to uncurl Toothless' claws, which had relaxed their grip for a second, and then pushed him off. Toothless landed on the sand with a squeal of outrage and immediately attached himself to Hiccup's leg, getting a good grip on the sandals with his talons and wrapping his wings around Hiccup's calf. Not going," said Toothless stubbornly. "It can't get much worse than this," said Hiccup, "so I'm not going to try a new tack." He took out the notebook in which he had been jotting down all the new about dragons and I hope it might be useful. "Dragon motivation," Hiccup read aloud. "Gratitude," Hiccup sighed. "Fear, that works but I can't do it. 3, 4, 5, greed, vanity and revenge. Those are all worth a try. Jokes and riddling talk, only if I'm desperate." "This has got to be a first," drawled Fishlegs, "but I'm with Gobber the Belch on this one. Why don't you just yell a bit louder?" Hiccup ignored him. "Okay, Toothless," said Hiccup to the little dragon, who was pretending to be asleep and held on to Hiccup's leg. "For every fish you catch me, I'll give you 2 more lobsters when you get home." Toothless opened his eyes. "Alive?" he said eagerly. "Can Toothless kill them? Please, just this once?" "No, Toothless," Hiccup said firmly. "I keep on telling you, it isn't the kind to torture an animal smaller than yourself." Toothless closed his eyes again. "You're so boring," he said sulkily. "You're such a clever, quick dragon, Toothless," Hiccup flattered. "I bet you could catch more fish than any of the others on Thursday if you wanted to." Toothless opened his eyes to consider the matter. "Twice as many," he said modestly, "but I don't want to." This was unanswerable. Hiccup crossed. Vanity was off his list. You know that big red fireworm dragon who was so rude to you?" said Hiccup. Toothless spat on the ground in indignation. "Said I was a newt with wings. Said I was incontinent bunny rabbit. Toothless is going to kill her. Toothless is going to scratch her to death. Toothless is going to—" Yes, said Hiccup hastily. "That fireworm dragon and her master, who looks like a pig, think that fireworm is going to catch more fish than anybody else on Thursday celebrations. Think how stupid they are going to look if you win. The prize for most promising dragon instead of her." Toothless got off Hiccup's legs. I will think about that," said Toothless. He waddled off with a couple of feet and thought about it. 5 minutes later, he was still thinking. He let out the odd chuckle every now and then, but every time Hiccup said, "So how about it then?" he just replied, "Still thinking, go away." With a sigh, Hiccup put a line through. "Revenge." "Okay," said Fishlegs, looking up at Hiccup's shoulder. "You tried everything else. How about I tell you jokes and riddling talk? I assume you're desperate." "Toothless," said Hiccup, "if you catch me a nice big mackerel, you'll be the cleverest, fastest dragon on Berk, and you'll make that fireworm dragon look like an idiot. And you'll have all the lobsters you can eat when we get home, and I will tell you a really good joke." Toothless turned around. Toothless loves jokes. He flapped onto Hiccup's arm again. "All right, Toothless help you, but not because me being nice or anything yucky." No, said Hiccup, "of course not. Us dragons cruel and mean, but we do love a joke. Tell me now." Hiccup laughed. "No way. After you bring me the mackerel." "Okay then," said Toothless. He jumped off Hiccup's arm into the air. A dragon hunting is a very impressive sight. Even a scrawny infant like Toothless, he flew across the beach in his usual untidy, lopsided fashion, shrieking a few insults along the way at cormorants that looked smaller than him. But as soon as he reached the sea, Toothless seemed to grow up a bit. The sea salt awoke him in some ancestral memory of the great pedigree hunting monsters that were his forefathers. He spread out his wings like a kite and flew fairly swiftly over the surface of the choppy waves, keeping his body and wings steady as he searched for the movement of fish. He spotted something and soared upwards in circles until he was high enough that Hiccup, craning his neck backwards onto the beach, could only just see his tiny speck. The speck was motionless for a second, and then Toothless dived, his wings folded by his sides, dropping like a stone out of the sky. He disappeared into the water and was gone for quite a while. Dragons can stay underwater for at least 5 minutes, if they don't want to, and Toothless got quite distracted under there, chasing one fish and then another, unable to decide which was the biggest. Hiccup had got bored and was looking for oysters when Toothless came bursting triumphantly out of the sea carrying a small mackerel. He dropped the mackerel at Hiccup's feet, did 3 somersaults in a row and landed on Hiccup's head, and then let out a cry of triumph, which is a bit more like a rooster crowing than a lot louder and self-satisfied.